Montessori Children's School Foundation 蒙特梭利学校中学部负责人 Carino， 主题为开拓中的挑战，从限制中建立机会，请掌声欢迎。
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm a teacher, basically, who happens to be the head of school. I don't know if any of the others would also describe themselves like that. I essentially describe myself as a teacher. So as a teacher, I know that there is no teacher in the world that will volunteer to do a class or a presentation at 1 o'clock in the afternoon after lunch. Yeah. So I understand that. And so I will try to be as entertaining and as light and as animated as possible. I hope I succeed. I understand that I'm speaking to some heads of school. I understand that most of you are teachers. There are a handful of parents in the room, and I do hope that this talk, and also of course the talks of the others, are able to reach all of those different segments in a way that is relevant and important as you all go through your journeys towards the establishment of your adolescent program. I come with the greetings of the community of my school. Maria Montessori Children's School is located in Manila, Philippines. So I operate in the same milieu as Chris and Ann. In 3 years from now, the school will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. Okay? I just want to. Just to make sure that you understand, I want you to know that I have not been the head of school for those 50 years. The school was established in 1971, so we are in our 48th school year. I joined Montessori in 2007. Okay, so not that long ago. And initially it was supposed to be just 3 years, and then they had me stay another 3 years. And that's important because, and Chris will remember this, I think, because at about 2013, I thought that my journey as an educator would take me elsewhere. And something happened in about 2011, 2012 that really changed my map for everything. While I was there from 2007, we began to look at the possibility of an adolescent program. And so I went and we did the studies. I went and talked to a variety of people about it, and read about it, and studied it, and all of this. And at the end, the recommendation was yes, we are going to do this. Okay? But I wasn't even sure that it would be me that would execute it. I was asked to do the study and to lay the plan, but it wasn't even sure that it would be me that would do it. And then in 2012, when they decided that they were going to do it, then I signed on for another 6 years. Okay, so our adolescent program began in school year 2013-14. Okay, so if you do the math, then that will tell you that we graduated our first group of graduates just this past June. So we let them off into the world. Okay, 16 adolescents graduated into universities. In the Philippines, as Chris and Ann will tell you, this year in particular was a very, very difficult year for university entries. It is the most number of graduates to ever come out of high school because of changes in the curriculum there in the Philippines. It was the highest number that there ever will be, probably, of graduates leaving. And our students, and I'm sure the students of Chris and Ann in their Montessori school, all did very, very well as far as the university acceptances were concerned. I mean, I can give you the numbers, but let's just say they did very, very well in their university acceptances. So we have one group of graduates already out. In other words, in a way, we finished the initial part of the journey, and we move on from there. Okay. So this talk is about, well, how to build one. and how to make it work, how to sustain it, and how to go about this journey. It's a little bit like building a bridge, piece by piece, step by step. And like all of you who are building, or anybody who's building an educational program, you bump into limitations and obstacles along the way a lot. But part of an educator's mindset is to find the opportunities even in those limitations. So this is what this talk is about. I heard those, I looked at those words that were put up earlier, right in the middle of it was faculty and teachers, finances, money. Well, this is something that we've just gone through. And well, so far so good. We're making it work. Just to give you an idea of the size of the school, let's see, we have about close to 400 students in the schools ranging from primary in our CASA, okay, all the way through to grade 12 of the adolescent program, okay, to what we call in the Philippines the senior high school. So, for example, in our CASA, in our primary, there are about 20 children per classroom. In our lower elementary, it's about 25 students per classroom. In our upper elementary, about 30 to 35. So not quite the optimal, right? But we have a good number of students. Essentially, our elementary is full. Our adolescent program is full. Where we are wanting is in our primary. Okay, and in the adolescent program, it ranges. Our graduating class last year was 16. Okay, the class below them that is graduating now is only 8 or 9, and then after that it levels off at about 15 to 18 per year. Okay, and we seem to be consistent in that area. So where this talk begins is with the fact that the school has already decided it is going to build an adolescent program. This is not about convincing your constituency about the viability or the relevance of an adolescent program. It begins with what happens when the board has said yes, the parents have said yes, and you have students ready to go. Naturally, we have an advantage because we have a feeder, right? We have a lower school that naturally feeds the adolescent program, okay? And that, of course, is a big advantage because for many children who go through a Montessori program, what they want to do at the end of that elementary is continue. That's what they wish to do. It's usually the parents that want them to maybe try and do something else. But the students, the happy Montessori child who has gone through primary and has gone through elementary, I mean, I would bet almost 100%, if they could, would wish to stay. So we have that as an advantage, okay? So where does it begin? It begins with the visioning. The idea of creating something out of nothing. By the way, I just mentioned something about the slides. The slides that you have, which I think are inserted into the booklet, are incomplete, okay? But if you want the complete set, I'll put my email address at the end of the presentation, and you can ask me for the entire set, and I can email it to you even this evening, okay? So, what was the idea? To create something out of nothing. The adolescent program did not exist. It did not need to exist in the school. The school was doing just fine. Okay, it had the usual day-to-day problems that a school will have, and a school in our milieu. But generally, the school was just fine with its primary and its elementary. It was like that until I got there. Okay, and then we started talking about an adolescent program. So we had nothing in effect, right? It didn't exist. It didn't have to exist, and so we started. We went through a series of consultations, but the money breaker, the thing that really convinced me to do it, and Chris, you were in the room when this actually happened. I think you just went to I think you stepped out for a moment. Some of you in the room, I'm sure, might recognize the hulking man at the front. He's an AMI elementary consultant. That's Greg McDonald, okay, who is our consultant for elementary. And he came and visited the school in 2011, loved the school, really enjoyed it. He's actually coming back in a few weeks. He was also here last year. And what did he tell me over dinner? And I was saying, I don't know, my term's over. I'm not sure if I want to stay. I've built this program. Somebody else can take it on. And he looked me in the eye and he said, so, this is something that you had also mentioned earlier. He said, so what do you mean? build these wonderful Montessori children. You have these wonderful environments, and then what? Then what do you do? Right? And he just looked at me. If you know Greg, he's like that, very straightforward and direct. And I said, well, I mean, that's not, do I have to worry about that? And he says to me, yeah, but then, you know, so what will you do? When you're just going to deposit them out there to these conventional, traditional schools, right? Do you think that everything that's Montessori about them would have taken root there? And I said, yes. And I said, even you would argue that. He said, yes, that's true. But imagine if you could have another 6 years in which to really, really sow those seeds. Think about the adult that you might have. Okay? That got me thinking. And I thought, that's a possibility. There's a possibility there. Okay? So I thought about it, I went back to the board and I said, okay, let's do it. Right? And the board was very smart about it. The term of the office was 3 years. Okay? So I said, yeah, I'll sign on for another 3 years. And then they said, okay. And I said, yeah, but I want this and this and this and this. Okay, so I asked for everything that I wanted as the head of the school in order to build an adolescent program. And they said, sure. At the end, I said, wow, that's a surprise. They gave me everything, right? And then, of course, when they slipped me the contract, it wasn't for 3 years. Right? It was for 6, naturally, because an adolescent program would be 6 years. So I signed on, and then on we went, okay? But it really began there, okay? It begins there. Because while there might be talk about why you want to build an adolescent program, okay, and I mean I hear whispers of this from some of the questions in the talk this morning. You know, maybe you're envisioning a farm, maybe you're envisioning a building, maybe it's about the financials of the school, about the viabilities of all of that. Maybe it's a business idea, right? Maybe for whatever reason it is. I think there's only one thing that really governs whether you will really build an adolescent program or not. And the answer there is simple. It's the adolescent. That's what has to be considered first and foremost. Okay? At the beginning and at the end, you're talking about an educational program that is going to take a child through the years that I bet almost 100% of the people in this room will say are the years of their life that they cherish the most. Certainly all of us have strong, if not always positive, memories of what happened between the ages of 12 and 18. And now imagine the possibility of developing an educational program that will take their hand and guide them through those years. That is what has to govern whether you're going to build an adolescent program or not. Do we need that kind of an adult? All right? Okay? And so we were very clear to the board, to the parents, and most importantly, to the adolescents themselves about you are at the center of this vision. It wasn't about the building, it wasn't about the money, it wasn't about the farm, it wasn't about anything else but about their development. For anybody who really, really cares about developing an adolescent program, that has to be at the center of the argument. The teenager himself. So we built it, and so we have words. Okay? We developed a vision for the program. Okay? And you have the text there, right? We wanted to provide a continuation of the MMCS experience while providing an engaging program guided by the intellectual, social, emotional, moral, and physical needs and characteristics of the early adolescent, blah, 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 blah. All of the text, all of the words. Okay? Emerging from the elementary program, the first portion of the AP aims to secure in the young teen the fundamental knowledge, learning skills, self-assuredness, so on and so forth. Okay? So we were clear about what we wanted to do and what we wanted to construct. Okay? And then, very important to us, we wanted it to be integrated. The adolescent program course of study is not a set of separate disciplines, but an integrated whole. Emerging, of course, from the cosmic education of elementary. Each area complementing and feeding the other. Its aim is to prepare young adults for their budding place in the nation and the world, searching for truth, confident in their learning skills, curious for more knowledge, and responsible with their freedom. And this we tried to make as clear as possible to the board, to the parent community, and most importantly, to the young teenagers themselves. That if you come join us, this is what will emerge. Okay? Of course, you have to go through the red tape. And in the Philippines, well, we have 120 million people in the country. And so, how do I say this? We need good private schools. And if you are a good private school, then the Department of Education will not interfere so much. We currently enjoy a very good relationship with the Department of Education in the nation, but that's not always true in other parts. It almost depends city to city. Okay? When I did talk to, for example, Montessori teachers in Australia, obviously it's a completely different story vis-a-vis government regulation and so on, and even other Montessori communities in the Philippines is different. Okay? But anyway, so we have to link that all up with the Department of Education desired outcomes. Okay? You can just flash them all. Okay? There was nothing that was completely out of the question. Go on. I mean, it's really what I want to show here is that it's just text, and that text will only get you so far. Okay, so we did that and did our work and our due diligence with the Department of Education, and then of course we created our own outcomes as well. Okay, what were the outcomes that we wanted? Okay, self-construction and guidance. These are all key terms. Go on. Okay. Proficient reader and writer, verbalizing and discussing ideas, proficient mathematical thinker. Okay, so I just put them all out there. Okay, again, all of these things. Okay, preparing for global citizen, practical management, active and knowledgeable on health and fitness, proficient in the arts, and so on. Okay, and then most importantly, prepared and preparing for university level study and life and adulthood, and a participating and maturing member of his or her family. Okay? The family bonds in the Philippines are strong. And rather than seeing that as a hindrance, we wanted to take advantage of that fact. I failed to mention, and this is very, very important, I don't own the school. I'm an employee. The school is a parents' foundation. Okay? My boss is a board composed of parents. And I'm sure that for some of you that sounds like an absolute nightmare. Okay. But I will talk about that later. Right? I'll talk about that later. Yeah, it has been sometimes, but it's been okay. Okay, but yeah, that's a very important point, right? Anyway, a participating and maturing member of his or her family. Okay. Right? So we had a vision of the teenager. And it was, again, we repeated it over and over and over and over again, right? We wanted an integrated individual, okay? Somebody who was whole, okay? Who was not one way at home and then another way with his or her friends, okay? Who could link his intellect with his will, okay? Who could live a unity of life, okay? Who understood the truth. Okay, that's in the first year of the middle school. We harp on that a lot. Okay, we can't help you if it's your elbow that hurts, but you tell us it's your knee that hurts. Right? There is no need. I mean, you have to tell us the truth. Okay, and we don't have parent-teacher conferences from the beginning. We have what are called student parent-teacher conferences. The students are there from day one. Okay, and of course, when they're afraid of this. Right? But what do we tell them? We tell them if it's the truth, right? Then all this is a conversation between adults, the adults who are spending the most time with you, and all we are talking about is your development. How can you not be excited for that? Okay? You have two adults there, or 3 adults there, whatever it is, and they love you the most. They're spending more time with you than anybody else. Right? How can you not look forward to a conference and then all they're talking about is you? Isn't that's a teenager's dream? Everybody talking about them. Okay? So an integrated young adult, go on. Okay? Communicative. No. Okay? Communicative. Okay? And you know this, right? You go to a conventional school prom, for example, you notice the teenagers, right? They like to hang out by themselves. They want to be as far away as possible from the adults. They don't want to eat dinner there. Okay? But the wonderful thing about a Montessori child, even as early as elementary, is they're not afraid to engage with the adults. So imagine taking that on again through adolescence. It's a fantastic thing to watch your teenagers conversant, unafraid of adults. Okay? So communicative, confident, self-assured, substantial, and not afraid to be different, because they are different. The average teenager in the Philippines, the high school system in the Philippines is run essentially, okay, by convent-run or brother-run Catholic schools, most of them, okay? And so there's a certain type of student that emerges there, okay? So that's on one hand. That's where the majority of students are. Of course, there are those in the public schools as well. But then on the other side, you have the very, very overpriced sort of international schools as well. So we really found a nook there. We were offering something different. Okay? You want your teenager to be different from all of that, then put them in a Montessori school. Because they will be different, and they won't be afraid to be different. And the truth is, they are. They're more outspoken, they're more comfortable, they're more confident, okay? They're more sociable. It's a variety of characteristics, and a Montessori child who goes through even just an elementary program will have that. But then if you have them for an additional 6 years, then my goodness, the quality of the young adult that emerges from there. Okay. What did we want at the end? Okay, we wanted that kind of an individual, and then we really had to be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, okay, well, when they graduate, what do we want them to do? What do we want them to say? Okay, do we want them to speak well of the school, to help market the school? Because sometimes schools think of their alumni like that. Okay, so that you can speak well of the school. Okay. Secondly, did we want them to say, hey, to go out into the world and say, I'm a Montessorian, and the way I am is the way I am because I went to a Montessori school? Was that a primary goal? Okay. Did we want them to be able to say, I was a pioneer in the first adolescent program of Maria Montessori Children's School Foundation, Inc., and this is who I am? Right? Did we want them to go out and make good careers out of themselves so that eventually that they could donate back into the school? Right? These are questions that all school administrators have to ask. But the truth is, and I get flack for this a lot, okay, because I say this quite a bit, okay? Because what we tell the students is, I don't care if you leave here and you never mention the name of the school again. I don't even care if you leave here and you even mention that you're a Montessorian. The only thing that we in the school and the teachers care about is that when you leave the high school, you'll be able to say, in high school, I discovered or got a sense even of who I really am. That's it. That's all we ask through those 6 years. And the whole idea of the high school is to get the student empowered enough to be able to say that. In high school, right, along with all the wonderful memories that they will make, high school. Remember high school, everybody? First sip of alcohol. Okay. First time you exercised your vote. Right? In our country, that right, well, like in many countries, that right was paid for in a lot of blood. And they exercise it then. It's the first time that they will drive an automobile. Okay? It's the first time they'll get those little funny tingles in their hearts that tell them, maybe I'm in love. And we have this incredible opportunity, you have this incredible opportunity to walk that path with them. What a gift that is to a passionate adult who wants to do that. Right? And that's what we promise them. And that's all we ask, that they know who they are. Okay? It's not about, a lot of other things. If we get this, then we're good. We're happy. Okay? Board and family support is critical. It is essential. There's no way around it. It is very, very important. Okay, so first you have the vision of the adolescent. That's first. Okay, I would suggest that secondly, of course, once you have that, then obviously you have to try to get board and family support. In the case of my school, the board is the family. Okay, the board is made up of 10 people. And they are all parents of students that are there. You become a foundation member when you do that. So I report every two months to a board of parents. Okay? Now, there's no way around it. Okay? They are my bosses, right? And I need to be able to give them a product and give them reports that support their desires, their intentions, etc. Right? Okay? So board and family support is very, very important, and communication with them is very important. Okay? But it's not as simple as, well, this is what the parent wants and this is what we're going to do. It can't be that simple. If I owned the school, right, or if it was a small corporation, then it would be easy to say that. But in a case where my bosses are the families, then what happens when they want something? What do I do? Do I simply lay it out on a plate for them? The answer is no. And you cannot do that. Okay? Because what? Okay? It's a balancing act. This communication, this relationship between parents and the school, and so on, especially if they're the ones that in effect own the school. Okay? It's a balancing act. And yeah, you have to have skillful people involved in that, right? One of the sure criteria, we're talking about faculty in my school, you need to be able to know how to talk to parents. You need to be able to do that. Okay? Good teacher, with the type of collaboration in the Montessori School, if you cannot communicate with a parent, then that's a dead end. Okay, and you will have all sorts of complaints and all sorts of things. So it's a balancing act that has to be, faculty has to be developed in such a way that they're able to do that. Okay, also. Next. Okay, so on the one hand, as a school, come in, collaborate. Tell us what you need. Come to me with your complaints. Come to me with your concerns. Come in. Okay? And given my context, yes, you have to do that. You want their feedback and so on. Okay? So come in. And don't forget to say, please. Okay? And when the communication is good, it's wonderful. I'll just tell a quick story about SPTCs. My first SPTC with a particular parent that came in, I had heard that she was very sort of conventional minded. So I came in, and each conference is about 45 minutes to an hour, okay? Once every quarter. We sat down, and so I was prepared with all sorts of data, all sorts of, quote unquote, the report card that they want to see, and all those things. I had the other things, the narrative reports, and the anecdotal things and all of that, right? But with this parent, I said, well, if I'm going to unlock anything here, let me speak her language first. Okay, so I went in and I gave in, and so I had all of that prepared. Okay, and then in the conversation, I had a lapse. Okay, because I was talking to somebody else, and I went into the other things first. I went into social development, emotional development, all of the other things. And she corrected me right away and said, well, is she ready for high school? I said, oh, that's right. Okay, and I was a little bit taken aback. Okay, lost that SPTC. And then just kind of took her through the data, and that was that. Okay, so when it came to the end of the year, I reminded myself, okay, I must be prepared for this. Okay, and after she had seen her child develop for the year and seeing everything, right? So when she came in, I said, okay, here's all the data, here's all the report cards, etc. And she moved it away and said, no, I don't want to know about that. I want to know about those other things, especially does my daughter have a boyfriend? They want to know things like that, right? So it's a process. Right? But you need to have teachers and you need to have administrators who know how to read those things and open those keys. Right? There was talk earlier about compromises. Yes, there are compromises in communication as well, right? If you know that this is a conventionally schooled parent and that his or her thinking is like that, then the way to enter that is precisely to perhaps speak about those things first. And then slowly, over time, you'll see they will convert, they will change, because they see the greater whole. Right? And what they will see, most of all, is not what you're telling them. What they will see is the child or the teenager who comes home every day and he or she is flourishing, happy, engaged, alive. Okay? So, come in, please. Okay? But, just as important, you also have to be able to say stop. And when it is relevant, say, excuse me, you need to leave education to educators. Please. Okay? So in other words, that's the fine balancing act there, being able to toe that. Okay? It's like driving a manual car. Okay? And sometimes, yes, I mean, you can't be afraid, obviously, of the difficult conversation that will occur. Okay? In the school in general, in the development of the program, all decisions are made. I can say this with some certainty. All decisions are made with the formation of the adolescent first and foremost in mind. Whether it is a thing about program, or what some would call curriculum, decisions about faculty, big decisions like that, or whether it is about the water fountain, right, or small things like smaller scale things that they have at the beginning and at the end of every decision made is what is best for the formation of teenagers. So, how small? That clock doesn't work in the classroom. When should that be changed? Okay? No. You don't want things not working in front of the adolescent. It's deforming. It shows that we don't really care if the thing doesn't work. So, what's the decision? Change it immediately. Things like that. The entire environment, right, becomes that's their canvas. Right, so every little bit makes a difference. So all decisions, I mean, that's something that I learned even before I got involved in Montessori. Because at the end of the day, it's about what's important for the formation of the student. Okay, can you go back? Okay. It says there in the bottom. Okay. At the end, if you want to maintain good relationships with your parents, really the best leverage is that they're getting a quality education. It's as simple as that. If they see that their child is flourishing, learning, living, then there's not much that they can say, and you have all of the leverage, all of it, because you can tell them, no, we know. Look at what's happening with your child. This is what's happening with your child. This is what works. So the quality of the education itself, the quality of the educational program is the best leverage for board and family support. So when you're having a difficult conversation with, for example, a parent, right, what you have to show is, yes, but look at what they are learning here. Okay? All right. So, very important, yes. Right? It's a teacher's hand. Okay? And it's outstretched to meet the parent. Because parent-teacher collaboration is important, okay? But this is not enough, because the most important part of this collaboration is not even there, because the most important part is the teenager himself. She or he has to be invested in the education, okay? So as much as you are selling to the parents, you should be, quote-unquote, selling as much to the student. Not by telling them this is what you're going to do, right? But by showing it to them, giving them quality teachers, giving them, all teachers know the glory of teaching, for example, a discussion class on a literature piece, and when you leave the classroom, they're still talking about it, right? All teachers know how glorious it is when you're making a presentation and then the child nods his head in full understanding of that. That is the day-to-day things that you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, it is the child, the teenager, who's in effect going to sell your education. It's as simple as that. If they are flourishing and they are living it and they are loving it, then you don't have to do very much marketing at all, because they will do it all for you. They will do it all for you. So make sure that they're involved, because sometimes they're not. Okay? Or they're not enough. Okay? Emergent, like I said, we have a feeder. Okay, we were a feeder, so we were emergent from the primary and elementary. And I mean, yes, I mean, we see it now that we've completed the 6 years. I really encourage anybody who has an adolescent program that if you need to, for example, correct, let's say, a senior high school student about, say, he or she not concentrating. Okay, I'll use that as a good example. Distracted in the classroom when they're doing their work. There's not much you need to do. All you need to do is ask them to come with you, bring them into a primary classroom, sit them down there for about 15 minutes, and they will come back and they will work. Because when they see a 2.5-year-old or a 3.5-year-old concentrating and working, okay, for an earnest child, that's enough to prove to them, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And that is work I've actually done that on several occasions. Let's take a look at this. Okay. So it's emergent from the primary and elementary, and of course, you know, the strange thing is that when we started the elementary AP program, I got the support of the parents, I got the support of the board, I got the support of the students. It went like this. When we opened the program, I said, okay, let's open the program. How many? We're about 35 graduating. I said, okay, let's start slow but sure. How about 24? Okay. No, I'm sorry. I said first 12. I said 12. Okay. And the board said, there's 35 students graduating. They've invested in the school since the beginning. We can't tell them that 24 people are not going to be able to enter that lesson program. Okay. Restudy. So I restudied and I said, okay. It's going to cost more money, but let's do 24. And then they got back to me and said, well, you know, that might be too much. How about 18? Okay, 18 in the initial class. And then we had a sign-up, then deposit, unrefundable deposit for entry into the Pioneer program. Okay, within the first 2 days, 15 signed up with the money. Okay, so I ran to the board and I said, you have a problem. We're going to have to stop at 18. And you're going to have to tell parents that they can't come in. And they said, no. Didn't you say 24 to begin with? Okay. So they threw that back at me. Okay. And at the end, we took in the first 23. Okay. So we had the support of the board. We had the support of the families. We had the support of the children. There was one place that we weren't getting support from, and that was my primary and elementary teachers. Okay. They were not all that excited about the idea of their executive director and the principal of the school using all of his energy and his attention on developing a new program when they felt that maybe that could be concentrated in other areas. And that took a little bit of time, okay? But we stayed firm and we stayed steadfast. And at the end of it all, things worked out, okay? From primary, we focused on one particular area. I'll just flash 2 quotes here from Dr. Montessori that really have become a rallying cry for the faculty. Okay, this is it. Care of the child should be governed not by the desire to make him learn things, but by the endeavor always to keep burning within him that light which is called intelligence. So this is the everyday task of our faculty. Okay, and to do that, you need really good teachers. You need really good teachers. But if you activate the imagination of a teenager over an extended period of time, then you have one of the most powerful things in the world in your hands, without a doubt. Okay, right? So that, right? And we talk about this all the time. You know, the light of that intelligence, the burning, which is a wonderful way to put it, even in translation. I'm sure it sounds even more beautiful than the original Italian. Okay. So that from primary. What about from elementary? What did we get? You know, this thing of integration. His intelligence becomes whole and complete because of the vision of the whole that has been presented to him. And his interest spreads to all. For all are latent to have their place in the universe on which his mind is centered. Okay? A great curiosity arises which can never be satisfied, so it will last through a lifetime. So really we just pick up from where cosmic education leaves them. And we just consolidate, so that they're always looking for holes. Right? Our exams are filled with things like how do you connect this to that, this and that, this and that. There's self-assessments. A lot of exercises like that. Our inquiry discussions are like that. We just did that the other day. You know, what you were learning in aesthetics, right, to take a philosophy class, how is that linked to what you were learning in this class and that class? So their minds are trained over a period of time to just always look for the connections between things. Okay? Right? Because after all, this is not the way the brain operates, right? The brain doesn't operate, okay, one segment, very connected like that. And so we urge them to see that, and then you can ask them later if that actually works. But we'll see. Okay? Right? Obstacles that we faced. Too new. You know, this adolescent program, that's not a thing. That's still becoming. Right? Doesn't even work in all places. Okay? Maybe I shouldn't tell this story anyway. We visited a an adolescent program in Australia about 2 years ago. And a few months later, after we and the students visited it, it closed. Okay? And then this last year, we visited a Montessori program in the United States. Met teenagers and everything, and then a few months later, it closed. Okay? So when I was inviting myself to see the Baramedas, incredible work that they're doing in their farm in the Philippines. Now, I'm going to call Chris and tell that story. I said, no, I don't think I'll tell that story now. Okay, but they're flourishing, so I don't think our visit matters. But this is, you hear this, it's too new. Adolescent program, what is that? That's too new. And what's this urban model and there's a farm and all of this? It's too new. It's still becoming. I still hear that. It's just becoming. Okay? Go on. Right? This one's a good one, right? It's not real life. It's not real life. Right? Oh yeah, real life is, gender-specific offices. Okay? Real life is everybody's wearing the same uniform. Right? Real life is, if that's not real life, right? Mixed personalities, mixed ages, etc. I don't know what is. Okay, it's not real life. So that one's easy to argue. Of course, I don't argue it like that. No, I'm a bit more civil than that. Okay, it's not real life. What else? Okay, it's time for big school. Right? Lots of people. Okay? Big school, more facilities. Right? So on. Okay. The usual. Traditional school will prepare them better. Conventional school will prepare them better. These are all things that you will have to deal with, and you have to have a good, strong argument for or against. Okay? What else? Okay? Focus on Casa Elementary. Focus with what you have. Right? So that's more important. Okay? More. Okay? This is the executive director's pet project. Okay? That's just his thing. Okay? That's just his thing. Come on. More, okay? And then, of course, right, you're going through the thing in the beginning. Do they know what they are doing? You guys know what you're doing? I mean, if the thing isn't even like set up yet, then how do you even know what you're doing? So all of this, okay, all of this are questions that you will ask, okay? Are questions that you will be asked. And again, as has been stated earlier and will be stated, I'm sure more, you have to stick very, very strongly to that vision. Now, vision of what? Right? Right? And I would maintain that the strongest thing that you can hinge on is the adolescent himself or herself. That vision. This is the adult that we wish to self-construct within the environment that we are building. Okay? And that's what you sell them on. Because that, I just kept saying that over and over and over and over again. Okay? I just kept saying it over and over and over again. We're building a particular type of dog. They will be different. You will see. You will see. You will see. Of course, you have to deliver. But yeah, I mean, this is the way to do it. And of course, it gets even personal sometimes. I'm sure for some of you, right? So, there's more. Focus on Casa Elementary. What's the reason? Yeah. Do you know what you were doing, Mr. Carino? You're not Montessori trained. Okay. What, you think a couple of conversations with David Kahn or a visit to Chris Barameda or attending this or that qualifies you? Okay? As if I'm not a liberally educated person who knows how to read and write and surround myself with good people. Right? And I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So it gets personal too. Right? And that came from everywhere, from some parents to even some faculty and so on. Do you know what you were doing? Okay? Do I? But we maintain our vision upwards and onwards and always with good humor. Because if you look onwards and upwards and you do it with good humor, many things are going to be accomplished. And as always, we bank most of all on the adolescents themselves. Pioneers, that is the pioneer class, grade 7. Okay, 2013, 2014. Okay? The base, of course, is the academic program. Okay? Our base was the academic program. Right? If you want to keep the parents satisfied, then you have to, then in a way, one easy way to do it is just make sure that the academics are taken care of. Okay? And of course, I use the word academic when I'm talking to the parents because that's what they understand. Okay? What I'm really talking about, of course, is intellectual virtue. Okay? Habits of the mind. That's what we're really teaching. Okay? But when we start talking about intellectual virtue, the parents, sometimes some of them will look at you with a little bit askance. Doesn't make me a hypocrite. It's just you just have to be able to read the parents. Okay? So we wanted to build an academic program, and for a new program, we wanted a culture of work, because that was very important to us as well. We did not want people to think this was the easy thing. We did not want the high school to be thought of as a backup if they didn't get into the big schools, things like that. It was important to us that we established a strong academic program and a culture of work, and that became our base. Okay? Right? So the course of study became very, very important. Okay? And it had to be a course. Okay? Hinged on liberal education, on the unities of things, being able to read the unities of things, pursue the truth. And of course, there's a lot of discussion there. What is that truth? Who's to say what is that truth? All of that. But you put an adolescent, a natural philosopher at about 15 or 16 on that question, they'll fly with that forever. Okay? All you need to do is get them together, put one small capital T, one small T, and one big T, and just have them go at it. That's a discussion class right there. Does that big T exist? Okay? All within a spirit of inquiry. So our teachers are very, very trained, Socratically, right? Asking questions, right? Conversations, dialogues, shared inquiries. Okay? But always the spirit of inquiry. Why? The secret to good teaching is to regard a child's intelligence as a fertile field in which seed may be sown to grow under the flaming heat of imagination. As stated earlier, you activate a teenager's imagination. Your possibilities are endless. This is a Stradivarius violin in Florence over the summer. I love the image. All three teenagers are looking at different parts of the whole. Right? And they're just, complete. Those imaginations are alerted. Okay? And I'm not even getting into questions of, beauty and aesthetics. The wonderful machine that is a violin. Right? Man made that. Okay? Those are earnest eyes looking at a man-made thing. Okay? The imagination. That's the all and the end all. Okay? Go on. Okay? Obviously the liberal arts. Okay? And everything that represents. Liberal arts skills. We don't teach skills in a vacuum. In other words, it's not just about reading, writing, but we teach it with content always. Okay? So literature is a big part of what we do. Philosophy is a big part of what we do. Okay? And finding teachers that can do all that, it's not easy. Okay? We need liberally educated teachers. Right? Human consciousness comes into the world as a flaming ball of imagination. Everything invented by man, physical or mental, is the fruit of someone's imagination. So we tell the students this over and over and over again. Activate the imagination. Give them stimulus, prepare the environment so it activates their imagination. Right? Okay? At the center of the course of study is the humanities. Okay? The humanities. But when you teach the humanities, okay, you're essentially teaching. Again, you can't teach the humanities in a vacuum. It needs to be alerted to something else, right? So, well, in effect, right, what are we working with, okay? And, there's a quote and everything, it doesn't have to be here, right? When you're teaching in this type of milieu, you're always talking about potential. And you're always talking about the promise, right? The promise of mankind, so on and so forth, right? So what does that assume? That assumes that you really believe that a human being has that potential and a promise, and that promise. Okay? And all of our teachers have to live that, right? If you're a human being and you think dark things about the ends of man, right, then it's not going to work. Okay? Right? It assumes that all of your teachers to the core, right, and the program itself believes in the potential and the promise of man. Because how can you teach potential and promise, and how can you activate potential and promise in an adolescent if you don't believe in that? Right? And then what happens when they come in and say, yeah, but the president of this country and the world is plastic and all this. Are you still able to show them the potential and promise of man? Right? How do we all respond to the big speech made by a child the other day? Because they know about it. And we have to know about it too. You know, that's the other thing about being an adolescent teacher, right? You have to read what they read. You have to listen to what they listen to. It's not always fun. Yeah, you have to listen to things that you don't normally need to listen to, just so that when you're listening in on a conversation, you know, when you're observing, you know what their contexts are. That's what our teachers are, you know, are developed to do. You have to reach them. And so as much ammunition as you have, which includes, you know, having to listen to Taylor Swift and other things, you have to do it. Okay? The potential and the promise of man. Okay? Go on. Okay? Which means that you must also have a philosophy of man. Right? Okay? Right? And then, of course, also hinging on the whole idea of an education for peace. Okay? But not something soft or, you know, just a symbol, right? Peace is something rigorous and disciplined, right? Why are you learning the liberal arts? So that you can argue a point. Why do you need to argue a point? Because in the waging of peace, you're going to have to make your stance clear. And that's not always going to be easy, right? That's what the liberal arts are for, right? So it's all directed as well, right, to this idea of an education for peace. But again, this is very difficult when it's not taught sincerely, right? So, for example, yeah, I mean, peace is not, it's not a hippie thing, or it's not a flower thing, it's not anything soft or gentle. It is something that is tough and rigorous and will require discipline and argumentation and all of that. Okay, and that is why they're going through this education, right? To be able to, you know, you're not going to be able to convince somebody that you're right if you don't have the requisite communication skills to be able to do it in a way that is civil, but in a way also that is firm. Okay, so so of course, you know, obviously the education for peace, which is such a rallying cry for that as a program, is a big part of what we do. But yeah, peace is hard. Okay, we know that day to day. Okay, so it was important to us to establish a culture of study and work, right? A rigorous, right? The idea that study and work are inherent in man, that's very, very important. Okay, many of us, we might, I mean, right? I know many adults that think that work is a punishment. You know, something that is, you know, that was sort of foisted upon us because we weren't able to, you know, because I mean, it's labor, right? It's tough. Right? I want the weekend. Like I want to retire at 25 and that kind of thing, right? But again, right? What do you need to do what do you need to show a teenager to be able to assert to them that study and work are inherent in man and are a means to their self-development and their self-construction? It's very easy. Just take them to a primary classroom, right? Where it's quiet and natural, and there's, you know, the classic child is not thinking, oh, you know, this is a punishment. He's completely engaged. Okay? I don't think there's anything that proved to me in 2007 about the inherence of work in life than just observing in a primary classroom. It's one of the most glorious things I think that I've ever seen. Okay? And what do? They are, what's that word? So the culture of study and work is born from habits of concentration that they had nurtured long ago in primary. Okay? In the same way that there's also that the collaboration in the adolescent program had also been born long ago. Okay? Particularly in elementary. Okay? I won't read the whole poem. I'll just read this very, very nice part of Mowing by Frost. It's an ode to work. Okay? It's an ode to work. It's something that we really try to impress upon the teenagers. Anything more than the truth, Frost writes in the middle of the poem, anything more than the truth would have seemed too weak to the earnest love that lays the swale in rows. Okay? So love that's engaged in work, right? We're talking about love earlier. Yeah, it's a big part of I think, an education. True love, earnest love. Okay? Earnest love that lays the swale in rows. That's what we're looking for in terms of developing the teenager. And they also develop that earnest love for the world around them and the people around them. Okay? What about the Montessori program in the digital age? Shouldn't we get them already in high school to, you know, to be more technical, digital, to prepare them for all of that? Is humanities really relevant in an age of machines? People get these questions? Yes. Right? Liberal arts wisdom in an age of data science? How do you address those questions? Okay? How do you address those questions? What's the relevance of a Montessori adolescent program in the digital age? Not real life. Humanities in the age of machines? Data science, data science, data science. What's the use of wisdom in that? Okay? And again, right here in the Philippines we have this. Okay? Well, in other places they have this too, right? Students have to choose. They put students through this thing where they have to choose this or that or this or that. And of course everybody talks about STEM. Okay? This is the way of the future. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. To a large degree that's true. Okay? To some degree that's true. Okay? We made it very clear to the parents, and again, this is going back to what you were saying earlier about things being clear to the parents, that, look, we know you want this, and you probably want this, but we can't give you that yet. Okay? So, we're going to do a couple of years of this, 6 years of this. Okay? Then in the 6th year, we will study this, which is what we're doing now. We'll probably be able to offer this next year. Okay? And then we will study this. And then we will study this. In other words, step by step, piece by piece. Okay? And you know, other schools might choose to try and do it all at one time. That's fine if they have the resources to do it. But it was very, very important to us that we asserted them that we wanted to do these things carefully, study everything well, okay, and do it step by step. And step by step. Right? Instead, we focused on, we want your child to learn how to learn. Okay, and they said, initially, well, what's the point of that? And then you remind them that, my goodness, in the age that we're in, if you don't know how to do this, you're in trouble. Right? You're in trouble. If in the next 10 years, you're not an adult who knows how to put everything aside, clean the slate, and learn how to learn something new with the speed with which technology works, then it's going to be very, very difficult. Our program will assure this. Why? Because we are going to inflame the imagination, right? And we're going to make them earnest learners. Okay? They're going to do that. We're going to help them. Okay? Learning how to learn. Right? We're going to, we will put your child, your adolescent, through an educational program where their self-recognition and self-awareness will be exercised on a daily basis. So they are sure of who they are. They have a hope and a flame for their potential. Their own understanding of their potential. And also all sorts of exercises through the 6 years about getting to know themselves, right? Daily journal, right? That's 6 years long. It's probably the only notebook that they will keep in from their high school years, right? Because basically it's a chronicle of their high school years, right? And it is what is that? That's 6 years of that. Every day, the reflection that's involved. Okay? The reflection. This is big in the program. Constantly taking a step back from who they are and writing about their days, thinking about how their day went, right? Setting their own goals. All of these things that I'm sure many of you do with your teenagers. Okay? And then, right? Why is the humanities important? Why is liberal education important? Because before you become a lawyer, before you become an engineer, before you become a doctor, before you become anything else, right? What a Montessori adolescent program can promise is that before anything else, and at the end of everything else, that I need to know what it means and how to be a human being. And therefore the humanities becomes relevant. Okay? And this again is what we tell the students, this is what we tell the parents. Right? Okay? So you have to be clear with the parents about that, and if they like it, then they stay. If they don't, they leave. Okay? And like I said, step by step is something they understand. Both the teenagers themselves who went through it, but also the parents, especially if they have been there since primary. They understand the idea of taking things slowly but surely. Okay? And at the end, you show the results. That's very, very, very important. Okay? Show them at the end. Okay? Now, fortunately, I can do that, and I would be lying if I didn't say that around the time of college acceptance, I was a little nervous. Would they make it in? would they be able to, you know, because, but I'll tell you this, in those 1 or 2 weeks that those results came out, it felt like a huge load off my back was taken off, like a 6-year load was taken off, because you have that. If nothing else, if the parents don't understand anything else, they got into great universities, they got into good high schools, and then, I mean, they got into the colleges that they want, the courses that they wanted, right? And then you show the results, and by all means, show it off. Show it off, right? And you know what? You don't have to do a thing, because they will do it for you. Okay? So yeah, so that picture earlier, that's them just a couple of months ago, suddenly all grown up, right, and ready to take on the world. They're now 3 or 4 months into university, and well, I'll show you what we're doing, because you have to study them even after they graduate. You can't just let them go. If you're building something, you have to keep, you know, you have to follow them. Okay, and they're all good. Okay? Right. So again, the relevance of the humanities. Okay. Again, you all can't see it. It's Aristotle and Plato and what have you. Okay. Show them in the loop. Okay, show them. It works. It can work. Okay. So, okay. But the academic life isn't the only part of the program. The co-curricular program and genuine student life is essential. Okay. This is probably the most important part of the talk. Okay. What is the materials that we were working with are essentially the students, okay, right? The students whose intellects had been lit up as early as CASA, and now we're on the cusp of integrating things because of positive education, okay? So we have that, okay? Next, right? We told them about the challenges of pioneering. Right? And we found out that they loved it. They loved the idea that they would be the first. Right? Plowing the waves, putting up the sail. You will be the first. You will be the first 6 years. No, we said you will be the first in the first year. Then when the second year came, we said, well, you're also the first. You're the first second year. Right? Then you're the first third year until we have the complete 6. Okay? But teenagers, generally, I mean, you know, a well-adjusted teenager will be up to the challenge, especially if they know that they're being guided well. So we put that to them, the challenge of pioneering. Okay? We, over the course of the 6 years, try to urge them, or try to teach them, guide them, to be able to fall in love with global ideals. Not easy to do in our world. Fall in love with global ideals. Okay. This is the student council from last year. We essentially said, okay, here's some money. Okay, govern yourselves. Okay, go build a student government, write a constitution, do all that, and do it yourselves. Right? Because after all, how else are they going to do it? Right? In our setting, do it yourselves. We'll be here when you need us. Okay. I'll forget to tell this. I watched a wonderful little skit written by a high school student, not from our school. It was a skit about a daughter and her father. And the mother went away on a trip. Okay? The mother went away on a trip. And so Dad put out all the stops to make sure that his weekend alone with the daughter would be great. Invite friends over, order pizza, set up a list of movies that they were going to watch, right? Bought all of the snacks that they need, all these sorts of things, right? And so through the course of that Friday night, Dad was everywhere. You want this? You want that? Here, let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Okay. And then the next morning, after the sleepover, still Dad was all over the place. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. Until daughter stopped him and said, "Dad, you don't have to do all this." Okay, and then the skit ends with the daughter saying to the forlorn dad, "You just need to be here." Okay. And so we're there, or you have to be there as they govern and instruct, so that they have somebody to go to if you're needed. Right? I got lost on the way here today. Well, not really. I didn't get lost. I stopped paying attention to where I was going. I got dropped off at the front of the university. And I didn't know where I was supposed to go. So what did I do? I just followed the teenagers here. Okay? And this is in Rome over the summer. right? I took this picture because that's basically what I did the whole time, right? I just followed, where do you want to go? Okay, let's go there, right? And sometimes you get lost, sometimes you don't, right? But give them freedom, give them a sense of responsibility, set the parameters, set up the environment, and they will lead you where you want to go, and where they want to go. Okay, so freedom and responsibility. Yeah. Okay. As I'm sure it is in your schools, we don't talk about extracurricular. I mean, we don't really talk curricular anyway, right? But it's not extra, it's not outside of what they're learning, but inherent in what they're learning. So everything is connected. This photo is from a beach trip that they organized and they planned. They're discussing Hamlet at about 11 p.m. on a Saturday night, a week before graduation, finishing the play, right? And we didn't have to do a thing. They wanted to finish the thing. Right? They asked if I could sit there just to sort of guide the discussion, so I shared and took the picture. As you can see, they're the ones that were leading the conversation because they did not want to graduate without finishing Hamlet. Okay? The whole activity, which was meant to consolidate their 6 years, was organized by them. It's a beach trip. Turned out fantastic. Trust them. Okay? One of the great gifts that we have in the program is we found something wonderful in drama. I have a little bit of a background in drama, so I taught a class when they first entered, and then they just took it somewhere else. They took that little seed and they made it into something much bigger than I ever could have imagined. Okay, this is in a public theater in Manila. Okay, where they performed at their first year. Okay, invited by the artistic director there after she watched one of their performances. Okay. That ensemble still exists, and its thrusts are still there. Okay? Everything that they do is self-devised. Most of what they do is original. Okay? But they've also done things like Romeo and Juliet. Okay? It gave them. We didn't give it to them. Right? They took the idea of drama, said, we want to do this, can you help us with this, can you help us with that? And then it became something that they created their entire identity around. Okay? And it gave them a sense of, yeah, we are doing something new and we are doing something different. So it was very important at the beginning of the program that they have this. And I didn't have a thing to do with it. I mean, really, that was not in the design. And I think as you build your adolescent programs, you will find that too. Now that they will come up with things that are beyond what you even imagine. And more than that, even more so than identity, it gives them opportunity. This is in a Montessori school in Australia. Okay, the Montessori teacher, who's Filipino, came home retired and then came home for vacation, was invited to a show, saw them, and then came to me and said, you need to bring them to Australia. Okay, so I told the group, and I said, you want to go? And then she worked it out, and then we were invited to Sydney, performed at Bondi, Forestville, a couple of places, and then did that, and that was also around the same time that we were invited to perform in that public theater. We performed in Cleveland, you know, so we, yeah, in other words, given them opportunity and of course a sense of accomplishment. And again, that's basically because of them. You give them the environment and give them the materials, right? Just let them go. Okay? Follow the adolescent, right? Trust them. Show that you trust them. They don't steer you wrong. Okay? They get such a bad rap, you know, teenagers now, right? They have no attention span. What else? They have no attention span. They're rebellious. This generation in particular has no direction. Okay? They don't respect their elders anymore. Okay? Foolish with all that. Okay? I've seen it. I live it every day. Okay? And every day I learn from them. Okay? They will build their own bridge. What do you do when the place is limited? Okay? Farm. Okay? What about the farm? Okay? Okay. This I know will be interesting to many people. Okay? The school, when it had to move to a shell of a conventional school. Okay? That's before me. Okay? Their old place was decrepit, and so they had to find a place, and the best place that they could find was a place where a British school, an international British school, had been. right? It had a building, it had all of that, right? And so what they had to do was fit the school into that existing shell, okay? And of course, as you can see here, right, this is not the optimal windows, okay? It's not the optimal ceiling, okay? I think at this point we had already changed the floors, okay? But, you know, this is not optimal, okay? But as you said, you make do with what you have, okay? And slowly but surely, I mean, these are, attractive environments. But again, it's not optimal. So we needed to adjust to what we had. Were there financial constraints? Yes, of course. It's not cheap to open a new program. Okay? But obviously, it's not cheap to open a new program. So what was the argument there? How did we argue that? At the end, when we did the study, I mean, obviously, opening up a new program with 6 years of students, okay, was going to be viable for the school in one way or the other. Okay, especially with the decreasing enrollment in primary, right? The adolescent program kind of took on that burden, and the highest tuition is paid there. Why is the highest tuition paid there? Because of the expertise and quality that we are demanding from the teachers there. Okay, there's a pronounced difference between elementary and primary. Now, how did I argue that, especially to the elementary teachers? I said, you see, where we don't skimp at all in the school, and this has been the way that it is in two particular areas. One, in the training of the teachers. Okay? We do not skimp on the training of the teachers, and the other place where we do not skimp at all is the quality of the materials. As much as possible, right, we get top-line materials so that the classrooms are always attractive. Okay? I had to convince elementary and class, you see, I'm not spending for the materials in the adolescent program. Okay? But I do have to spend, because not everybody can teach physics, and teach physics the way that we wanted to teach physics, okay, and so on, okay. So yes, there are financial constraints, but again, you manage. The school is in a residential area. It is in an urban area, and we learned early on that we're not allowed to have any animals on the grounds, right? I got corrected some years ago because I found out that one of the janitorial aides had a few roosters in the back of the campus for cockfighting. And he was just living there in the back. And I got cited by the association. You know, you have those things, carry diseases and all these things. I don't. So from early on, and again, we have to be very clear about this, right? The idea that the farm of the farm was not something that we were going to be able to do. I mean, at this point. So our model was the urban model. And of course, I was also able to say that besides, there's somebody else in the country that does that. Right? That's environmental. Okay, and so our niche is something different. Okay, there's an urban model. Let's try that, and let's see where that brings us. Okay, and we're also in a very isolated location. Now, how did we make that work for us? So we worked with this limitation. We worked with the limitation here. We worked with this limitation. But the isolated location. What do you do if you're in an isolated residential location? What do you do? Well, we consolidated that location. So now about 45% of our student population is from the immediate area of that place. In other words, what we did was make it a strength, rather than thinking we were in an isolated place. But where are all these people going to school? Well, let's consolidate here. Okay? And now that we've done that and we finished the high school, now we can look at some possible expansion plans in the next 2 or 3 years. They want a little bit of they want some expansion at the 50th year as part of the celebration of the 50th year. So we're studying that. Okay? So you're only as limited as your mindset sets you are. And like I said, we have a feeder. That's a huge advantage. Okay? So we have this awful. I don't know why Filipinos are insistent on playing basketball. Because we're not very tall people. And everywhere, in every city, in every school, the middle of the thing is a basketball court. It makes no sense. Okay? But it is there, so we make it work for us. That's a flag ceremony. And here there's a sports fest going on, which is led by the teenagers. And then we have this also awful auditorium, okay, which we also have made work for us. Okay, I think this is a dance thing that was the cast of West Side Story came over and did a workshop there, and then that's where essentially we built our theater program. So we make do with what we have, but at the same time marshalling the resources to eventually beautify and make better the grounds. My plan is to tear that down and put that here. Okay? And then this becomes an open space, but plans are plans. Okay, so you have to be resourceful, you have to be creative. It also fixed, the idea also fixed our population planning. I have no dreams of making, you know, of having 208 adolescent program students. It's just 2 sections. That's it. Very limited. Okay, with the whole idea that what we have, we teach them very well. Okay, so at the most, it will probably be about 60. At most. Okay, at most. 50 to 60 in total in those 2 sections. That's fine. Okay, there's no great ambition to make it bigger than that. Let's work small and do that small very well. Simple. Okay, and then we consolidated the place. It allowed us to focus on the course of study. Okay, we can't go the direction of the farm, right? Then let's focus on what we can focus on, which is a strong, integrated course of study. Okay, and let's build around there. At that point, of course, there was an urban model that we could kind of hinge around. Okay, and we focused on a vibrant student life. Okay, like I said, we adjusted vis-a-vis the financial. Okay. All right. What's the hardest part? And you're correct. It's the faculty, right? They're the ones that are balancing on this thing, and it's difficult to do it. It is without a doubt the hardest part. The faculty, the development of the faculty, the hiring of the faculty is the hardest part, okay, of my job. Okay? And like I said, I'm just a teacher, really, so I can't wait. My next term ends in 3 years, so after that, I intend to just teach. Okay? But we shall see. It's the most difficult part without a doubt. There's no way around it. Okay, I have suggestions. School administrators don't all shout at me at the same time. And teachers, I know you after this will like me a lot. I'm sure. Okay, because how do you deal with the faculty? Over these past 30 years of being involved in education, to me, I try to keep it simple. You want a good faculty? You got to train them, you got to pay them, you got to pass them. It's as simple as that. Okay. I have some members of my faculty who are paid very well. Yeah, I shocked one the other day. She's just come back from Dublin for her first module of training, and we're very proud of her because she will be the first in the school to have more than one diploma. And so she comes into my office because she wanted to talk about the numbers. And so I told her, okay, this is what the numbers will be. You're the first one here, so I'm sorry that there's been a delay, but this is what your salary will look like. And the idea, anyway, it's a graduated increase over the years, right? I stood up. And then later on she said, I wasn't expecting this. Right? And, but if you want to keep your good people, then you do have to pay them. And of course, when she said that, I looked at her and I said, well, you don't have to take it. If you don't want it, you don't have to take it. But there's no way around it. If you want to keep your good teachers, then you have to pay. Okay? Then they, you need to, young teachers in particular need to feel that they know where they are going. The young ones are the ones that need the nurturing. Okay? And then of course, train. Okay, and we're engaged with AMI. Okay, whenever AMI decides that they can accredit schools outside of where they can accredit now, I want to be there. Okay, you're saying, well, you're not even trained. Why do you do this? Well, then I'll leave. Okay, but we want an AMI teacher in every classroom, and every year this is a part of the budget. And I will not skimp on materials and faculty development. Those are 2 areas that I absolutely will not skim on. I will do other things. I will not teach air conditioning. I will do, I will find other ways to say it, but not there. Okay? What's the criteria for hiring? I like character over competence. Right? You tell them. You say, it doesn't matter how specialized your skill is. At the end, we're hiring good people. We're looking for good people. We're hiring for good people. And what was said earlier about your heart speaking to you, just that bit telling you this one's right. Okay, that's a good call. Okay, character over competence. They must be able to converse with adolescents. Okay, to go to their level. And I'm not saying I didn't say go down. That's not what it is. Okay, To be conversant with adolescents, you need to be able to communicate with parents. You need to be conversant with the school community. You need, if you have an adolescent teacher who doesn't talk to elementary, right, then that person's math skills are not going to go anywhere. You need to go where they came from. And so you have to be able to talk to the community. Okay? You need genuine learners, real learners, people who are interested, who get fired up by ideas, right? Who when they don't know something, will learn. Who aren't going to complain if they have to do this thing or that thing because you're asking them to, etc. You want models, obviously, for the adolescents. They're looking and they're watching. Okay. They need to be able to observe. I mean, this is the one that's complicated for me, right? Because they need to be genuine observers who know properly how to read situations, in particular situations with parents, right? How to speak their language, how to open the keys, right? Because at the end, the goal is the development of the adolescent, right? So sometimes you have to take shortcuts, not in the training of the adolescent or the teaching of the adolescent, but in particular with how you're communicating with the parents. I'd rather do the shortcut there than compromise with the education of the students. And that means you have to be able to read the situation, right? If what they understand is academics, okay, then maybe that first or second or third SPTC has to do with academics, right? But have faith that eventually that will turn, okay? So that's what I mean by readers. And of course, I do mean readers. Like, you have the teachers who don't read. You probably don't want them in your organization. They have to be constantly learning, okay? And writers too. So narratives are a big part of what we do. All teachers are asked to write narratives which are given to the parents. Okay, so and that's at the top of their SPTC thing. The grades are at the bottom. Right? And what's at the top are the narratives per teacher. Okay, and I have to check that even with legal. I get the thing, and I kind of have to flash it by legal. Because obviously this is a document they're taking home. Okay, so you have to be very, very careful. Okay. And writers, meaning also I mean that they need to be people that do the right thing. They know how to make the right decisions. So generally, this is my criteria. Of course, there's another, there are other things, but for me, when I'm in the room, I'm looking for these things. Okay? They're always watching. Okay? Besides, with all faculty, we have a sort of general principle. A teacher can't give what they don't have. So if you're asking, all of the outcomes that are expected from the adolescent should also be expected from the teacher. Because if the teacher cannot deliver those things, then how are they going to be able to teach it to them? I mean, if the teacher does not possess those things, right? The imagination, the intellect, right? The fire of imagination, the curiosity, responsibility. It's like trying to do a dress code rule, and the ones violating it are the teachers. Okay? It's like, yeah, so we can't give what we don't have. Right? I actually joke about this a lot with my students and talk about the responsibility. I have 10 of them here. If they see me in a hotel, drunk as a bat, right, flirting with another woman, then everything that I have done for 6 years is destroyed in that one moment. And our teachers have to be made aware of that. Okay? There is no separation. I mean, and this is sometimes difficult. There are posts on social media. Things like this, okay? We have to be very careful. But we can't give what we don't have, okay? The best models are those that are models without trying to be models, okay? They just do it. It's like the best teachers, right? The best teachers are not those who are so conscious about their teaching, they just teach, okay? And why do we have to do this? Because if you haven't noticed, they are always watching, they are always listening, and most importantly, most complex, they're always feeling, okay? And we will always have to be there. Okay. It's a long quote, and it's not Dr. Montessori, it's Pat who helped train Amy and Chris. It's on the slides. It's beautiful. Okay, it just talks about the wonder of the adolescent. It's gorgeous. Okay, for the faculty, it begins with a handshake. But this was the last day of school before graduation. Right? You develop a relationship with your students, you do it the right way, then they don't want a handshake at the end. Because that's what it's all about. It was hard watching all that. I had to kind of hide behind the camera and take pictures so that I wasn't very proud of myself. Because it was really, really very touching. They had, yeah, it was just, Considering it began with a handshake at primary, and then it ends with an earnest embrace on the last day of school, 3 days before graduation. There they are, with their teachers. You have to track them. Okay, you have to track them. I'm a little bit cut off. Okay, how are we doing it? It's a 4-year project. It's a 4-year research project. The teenagers will be for 4 years, so 4 successive years, including this year's graduates. We'll do it through focus group discussions, interviews with the students now that they're in university. It's a bona fide research method. Journaling. We will ask them to do journaling. Okay. Academic tracking is the easiest. Show us your report card. Okay. Every quarter. Okay. And the parents. What are the parents thinking? What do the parents say? Okay. So we will track them over a 4-year period. It's a research project that is costing much more than I expected, but we'll have to negotiate that. But we're getting outsiders to do it. I mean, obviously that cannot be me or somebody within the school. It needs to be more objective, so that we have a study on where they are, where they're going. So lucky people, you know, they're tracked after high school, and then when they graduate, there'll be results from that as well. Okay? And we will continue to track them, right? How do you sustain the pioneer spirit? We're not pioneers anymore, they're gone. How do you do it? How do you do it? Okay? So you do it first internally with what you have, you continue to fire them up in and outside the classroom. In other words, you continue the quality of teaching. Okay? You fire them up both inside and outside the classroom. Okay? That's how you sustain the pioneer spirit. You just push for quality. Okay? And give them that spirit. Okay? And as we've trusted them all along, how are we going to maintain the pioneer spirit? We're going to involve the pioneers. Right? The school, 50 years, has never had an alumni association. Okay? All I had to do was ask that group, who wants to start an alumni association? Me. After all, they've been building for 6 years. It came from them. And like everything else they built, I have complete faith that they'll actually make it work. Okay, so that's me. My email address is there at the bottom. If you'd like a copy of the slides, you can do it. I welcome any questions or suggestions. I like insults too. Insults are always creative. Give me that as well. Okay. Come visit us in the Philippines if you're around. And invite us to your schools. We'd love to come visit you. We'll bring the drama group. Last, I began by saying the idea was to create something out of nothing, right? But the truth is, right, that's not true. We were never creating something out of nothing, because what we had were the wills of those 16, right? And what we have now are those wholly educated students there. So it's absurd to say that you're building a lesson program out of nothing if you already have a feeder to do it, because it's they who are essentially what will make it work. The lasting message here is simply that, you know, get the students themselves involved in the development of the program in a very real way, not just by showing what they do or guiding what they do, but really constructively and directly. You're building a program, and we want you to lead it, to charge it. Okay? In other words, making them really partners in the development of your program. Okay? That's my advice. That's my only advice. Okay? I'm not creating something out of nothing. I'm creating something out of something very, very special that are already there. Okay? And I have a few of them here. Okay? So, right? I can talk a lot, and really, they can give this talk. Okay? So, I've asked Pepe and Hannah to come up and end the presentation. Join me in the open forum. There are 8 others there, so if we call them, you won't be surprised. They're ready. Hannah is an interesting study. Hannah did not do her elementary in a Montessori school. She only joined us in grade 7, in middle school. Okay, and then by the 3rd year, she was voted president of the student council and so on. And Pepe, on the other hand, has been with us since primary. Okay, I'll let them introduce themselves.
午安，我是 Pepe。午安。这是我朋友 Hannah。That's correct?
Yes. Perfect.
谢谢。
Yes, as we see, that's a very good example of trying till you succeed. Yes, so again, my name is Hannah, and he is Pepe, and we're going to talk about us as part of the adolescent program.
So, there are several factors in the adolescent program, several things we learned. One of the big important ones is pioneering. In the program, seeing as it's new and all, we've had to do a lot of things before anyone else could. We're still doing a lot of things before anyone else can. And, of course, it has its challenges, as Mr. C said. We have our struggles. We face issues. But the good thing about that is you get a learning experience from that, and you learn to fall, but get back up. And when you do something right, that's new and fresh, it's very fulfilling. And you can think to yourself, how can I do this again? But more importantly, how can I do this better? So through pioneering, we learn a lot of important skills. For example, the skill of independence.
The skill of independence. This is very prominent in our learning as part of the adolescent program, because it's our ability to work alone, to work with ourselves, with our skills, and this very much correlates with our responsibility. Knowing our own tasks, what's due, what should be done, all of that. This is actually being applied to what we're doing now. We are in a Taipei Odyssey. We decided our adventures out of the country and out of town to be called the Odyssey. It's a great learning experience where we learn outside school. And then this actually practiced our independence and responsibility because as the program grows, us adolescents, we also grow together with it. And our independence also goes to very minimal stuff when it comes to like leading, navigation, what train do we go to, now that what Mr. C was talking about earlier, about being the ones who are trying to look for the right places to go to. It has its own failures and its own successes. Whenever we go to the right place, we're like, yay, we went to the right place. But then when we go to the wrong place, in the wrong direction, we're like, okay, we went there, let's try again. And then of course, with our own independence and our ability to work with ourselves, leadership is the ability to work with other people as well. So in our lesson program, we are able to organize, communicate with the teachers and the parents, to propose, to present with confidence, with full will and concentration, because being a leader is not easy. It involves a lot of work, a lot of time management, especially when it comes to your balancing of, for example, as your role as a leader, your role as a student, like outside of school leadership, and then your role as a family member, your role as a sibling, your role as a friend. It goes in a lot of ways. And also, through leadership, we're able to learn that everything we do affects other people. That we're not the only ones here. That we are all aiming for the common good, and that whatever we do, whatever mistakes we have, whatever success we have, those are all applied to our learning experience for daily life as well. And for our work culture, which actually correlates to the leadership, we've had a lot of programs and organizations that we've built throughout our 6-year program. We already have 2 organizations, We have the NAWIR, which is a civics organization that is responsible for environment causes and stuff like that. And we also have our drama program, which Mr. Carino talked about earlier. And that picture right there is a peer assistance program session. It's a program where it's a student-to-student mentorship. A student will teach another student, because that's the culture that we want to really cultivate in our program, to be able to share our knowledge, to be able to have a relationship with the students. And also we want to prove that the students are not just there to listen to the teachers, but use the things that we've listened to the teachers to pass it on to the other students as well.
And it's important that we have all of this whole work culture, because we are indeed a community. A community thrives when everyone in it is working hard. And the community doesn't just include the students. The community includes the teachers and even the world around us. We do interact with other schools and other organizations to further the education and continue to teach even outside of the classroom.
And I also want to add a very small short story about real-life experience. I was a transferee from a non-Montessori school to Montessori, and I got culture shocked by the changes, because a non-Montessori school, you can't really communicate with the younger ones, like as children, the elementary people, because they're all separate. They're in separate buildings. Unlike in our classroom, the classroom right in front of us is an elementary classroom. So we're able to see, communicate with the other kids. And also, when I went into Montessori, I was afraid that being a nerd and stuff like that is a bad thing. But then when I went in, I just felt so accepted. Am I saying that everybody's a nerd? Yeah, of course I'm saying everybody is a nerd. And I'm proud of that. And I love the fact that we're proud to be, lifelong learners.
And to be a lifelong learner, you need to understand integration. We learn to integrate and think about how everything falls into place. Every subject, everything we learn, it's all connected in one way or another. And that's why, as Mr. T said, the things are co-curricular, not extra. Because everything really does fall into place, into the development and education of the adolescent. I mean, let's use an analogy if that's okay. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Look at this photo. If I showed you just the corner right here, you see the sky. Yeah, I like the sky. Nothing wrong with the sky. The sky is okay. But wouldn't it be better to see the whole picture and see the adolescents enjoying themselves, enjoying learning here in Italy? This is a photo taken during the Italy Odyssey. Wouldn't that be better? That's just how it is for integration as well. Yeah, sure, you can look at one thing, but it's best to see the whole thing. The big picture. But, of course, along with knowing about the big picture, what's around you, you also have to know yourself. That way, you can see, hey, why am I doing this? How can I do it better? Why do I do it like that? Why don't I do it like that? So you can help not only yourself, not just your friends and family, but also the world around you, and be a whole human being.
And part of our learning about ourselves is, most of the time in our classrooms, we're taught executive functions and integration and stuff like that. And I thought, personally, it's very helpful, because in our executive functions, we're taught inhibitory control, or self-control, our memory, and our cognitive thinking skills, which is our ability to think on our feet. Whenever there's a problem, we're able to solve it and work with the problem. And then for self-control, what to do, what not to do. How do I handle myself? How do I control myself? And then for memory, of course, which applies very well to our daily lives. For example, you meet a new person, and then that person remembers your name. You don't remember the name of the person, so it's awkward. And to wrap up, knowing yourself is important in Maria Montessori because we might, once we graduate, it's okay, as what Mrs. C was saying, that when we go out, we don't have to brag about our school. We just have to represent and to really spread our learnings about ourselves, that we know who we are, or we make sense of who we are as a person, as a student, and as workers, as part of the society.
So, essentially, that is what makes up the program, and I think we're all very happy. Should have learned that. But essentially, that's what makes up the program, and we feel that that's pretty representative of the population. And while we haven't quite done anything yet as with jobs, new jobs, working, making a living, I think we'll be doing pretty well because of all the things we've learned and all the things we will continue to learn because we know how to learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so questions, yeah. Now, questions can be directed to me, but even better if they're directed to them. And if we need more support, there are other students there, and faculty.
学生，我想请问学生，我想请问是你们现在是高中，即将要迈入大学，那我想要先不要做局限有限制的提问，就是今天先不管你是否在18岁以后，是停留在菲律宾或者是世界上任何一个国家，你除了继续升学进入大学校园之外，你是否有考虑过在18到24岁之间做其他生活上或学习上的尝试？谢谢。
The question is, now that you're preparing for your university, have you thought about the possibility of taking further studies in another country?
Well, we've actually had some students who are already abroad, studying abroad, such as Nina Guerrero and Nico Palanca. They were former members of the adolescent program, and they are succeeding. One of them are in Canada, and then one of them is in the United States, in the US.
And we still have people applying abroad now. For example, one of the students over there actually is applying to the Ivy League school Cornell in the US. So, yeah, I think that's
Yeah, through the 6 years, we've had people go abroad. And generally, the general feedback has been very positive. They've done well in the places where they have ended up. In the United States, we have one that just went to Singapore. So yes, they've done well.
好意思，我想我可能是刚刚没有描述的清楚。那我是举例在台湾目前有一个女孩子，她是来自于混血的家庭，妈妈是波兰人，爸爸是台湾人。那她从小都没有进入到体制里面读书过，从幼稚园到现在20几岁。那她目前是自己创业，从她10几岁的时候就自己创业，创办法学学校到现在。我是基于这个例子，所以我才想要请问说，那现在在菲律宾，你们这一批已经受过完整蒙特梭利训练、蒙特梭利的学习到18岁毕业的孩子，你们有没有想过去或以往大人去尝试去体验以往大人们所谓的，不管你是去到美国继续升学，或者在菲律宾继续升学，或是到世界各地继续所谓的升学以外的事情。那如果有的话，你们的计划是什么？谢谢。
Well, we all have our own plans, and whether they're related to the college or not, we still try to do stuff on our own as well, because, you know, that's a good way to learn. For example, I'd like to do things like help out my dad in his record store, work on his label. My dad owns a music label, and I can help out with that. That's not exactly school, but it is something educational that I can learn from. Oh, after I graduate, I do intend to do music production, and basically I want to advance Filipino music and create something new for the nation musically that people haven't heard before.
And for me, I want to continue my family's business in our yeah. But then I also want to pursue something when it comes to music, because I like singing, and I also like or something with art, such as architecture and drawing.
So I have a question for Hannah. So before you transferred to the Montessori adolescent program, how did you decide, or how did you assess that you might do well in a Montessori environment? Or how did the school help you assess the process of the transition?
Actually, at first, I didn't want to go to Maria Montessori. But then, when I came there, it's really my relationships with my classmates, my teachers, and just the overall environment that made me fall in love to Montessori. Because I wouldn't have been standing in front of you right now speaking if I didn't go through all of that experience. At first, I really did not want to go, but something inside me sparked that made me want to continue being a part of the adolescent program and go through this whole 6-year program and finishing up to the end.
Yeah, but before you made the decision to go into the Montessori environment, how did you know that you want to go in and that might be right for you?
Well, I did not, because my parents just told me to go here. Yeah, my parents told me to go to the Montessori program. And yeah, as I said earlier, I did not want to go at first. And then maybe a month or 2 months in, that's when I started realizing that maybe I am meant to go to this school.
Yeah, when Hannah first came, normally the last interview was with me. And I'm very direct, and I'm like, okay, do you want to come here? No. No. And of course, after that, I talked to the parents and said, she doesn't want to come here, and this might become a problem later on, especially with all the collaboration. And the parent, no, I'm sure she'll like it here. I'm sure she'll like it here. So that was that, and we're lucky that she stayed.
Is there any academic assessment applied to the school? And
What kind of assessment?
academic assessment?
Oh, you mean like standardized tests?
Or examination?
Yeah. Yeah, there are. Yes, and we have homework also in the school, but let me talk about that. Yes, we do have standardized assessments because they are an indicator of a child's progress. If they take one standardized exam, it doesn't really mean anything. They could have just been having a bad day. But they do take it from grade. They take it. All students in the school take an assessment once a year, beginning with I think the 3rd grade. Okay, and obviously that helps in assessing certain things. If for 3 years in a row there is an issue with, say, fractions, then that can confirm what a teacher is seeing in the classroom. Okay? I think the important thing to say, though, about that is that those standardized exams are not made a big deal out of, meaning they're not announced in the calendar. It's not necessarily a part of the conferences with the parents. Most of all, they are tools to help the teacher when the teacher needs them. And that's mostly what they're used for. But they're not really. And then at the end of the 6 years, the parents are usually given the copies because just so that they don't take up space in our files. But it's not really a big deal, and we don't make it a big deal. Parents sometimes make it a big deal, and I found it useful because sometimes if that's the language that they understand, I can go there. But generally we try to correct that this is just an indicator. This is not your child any more than a report card is your child. The child that we want you to talk about is the one that is sitting in front of us here. That's the more important thing. Standardized exams, I suppose have their place, but in our school it's not really a big deal. In fact, even when they take them, to the students, we context it as a type of, well, this is for, you're going to have to take these things in the future, and so this is a little bit of practice in it. But they don't study it, they don't study for it, we don't announce it ahead of time, because that also destroys the purpose of a standardized exam. Right? We give a standardized exam because we want to know where they are at that time. Right? Now, if they have to prepare for that, right, then it's useless. So I think it's all a matter of context. Like before, it used to be announced in the calendar, and parents would make a big deal out of it. I took it out. So it's not. I mean, it's just an indicator, but that's no more your child than even a report card is. So I think it has to do with just repeating that over and over and over again to parents. This is not your child. Other questions?
I just want to know that thank you, especially the students, Hannah and Kathy. Thank you very much. I can see how educated you are from your presentation. I really want to ask you, have you ever thought, or anybody in your school ever pull out for the reason of not being able to adapt, or not having friends, not making friends, or not being able to collaborate, things like that, okay? Or parents couldn't wait to see the results, academic results.
So parents who couldn't wait to see the academic results.
Yes, some parents are very anxious.
Are you asking me or them?
That question I'm asking you.
Okay.
The other question I'm asking you is that among your social relationship, do you hear any complaint about the school?
No, I think that's great. I think it's great that you're asking that. And they, sure.
And the answer is yes. But yes, people have, pulled out because the program didn't work for them. But that's of course a personal thing, and that does happen with every other school. I think for me, for example, I would not work in the schools Mr. T was talking about earlier. The more traditional way. I like the way I'm learning here. The integration I'm thinking about and all the other facets of the school that I am learning about. But yeah, I like what I'm learning here. I like the education, and it doesn't work for everybody, but I think it works for me. I think Hannah, it works for you? Yeah.
Yes, actually I think a big factor of the adolescent program is really the work that is involved, because in the AP, short term for adolescent program, the work there never stops at all, because even when it comes to school suspensions, whenever we're still given homework to do at home, just so our brains get exercised regularly and we won't be idle with ourselves. So.
Yeah, there's also a practical reason for doing that, so that we don't have to make up the class days that are missed. So they are given things to do at home, in the case of the class suspension. Yes, we have had people leave. Certainly, sometimes it pertains to the work and the workload. Other times it has to do with behavioral things, psychological things, and so on. This is just my personal take. I'm not sure if the Montessori adolescent program is for everyone and all families. I think if every child in the world had got a CASA education, the world would be a much, 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 much better place. That's the one area where I think if everybody had that, that would be great. But the adolescent program, it's for all this talk that we have about conventional schools and so on, that's not to say that there are not some good conventional schools and good conventional school teachers. Right? I think that's important. That's important to state. And at the end, another reason why sometimes it doesn't work is also because when the family is not coherent. We've turned people away because, for example, the parents want them to stay, right? But the child is not. That will create a problem a little bit later on, or vice versa. And then what was the question to me about academics? Oh yeah, sure, of course.
They come,
of course.
They want to see immediate.
Yeah, they want to see the immediate academic results. Yeah, it's a process. And all the other heads of school will know that. It's a process because they want that. They want the grades. They want the data. They want this, and you're trying to tell them. But are they asking questions at home? Are they looking at the world curiously? Are they doing all of these things? And sometimes they don't get it. And yeah, that's a constant battle that requires stamina and repetition and just a clear and focused eye that we're not teaching the parent, we're teaching Pepe and Hannah. And the teacher has to absorb, or I have to absorb that variance. But of course, parents are parents. They want to see results. So you have to negotiate that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any question? I thought you disappeared.
I'll just thank you both for your presentation. And I'm curious about, because I don't understand the context where you're situated, in all honesty, with your school be considered a school of privilege? I don't have a sense of the school fees paid and that sort of thing. So is it, the first part, is it a privilege to attend your school, a financial privilege? And I was particularly moved to ask that because you obviously have a lot of overseas trips and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And how does that work? Do all students take part in those activities?
Right.
And do you support students of lower financial means to take part in those kinds of things?
Yes. The answer to that is yes. It's not cheap to go to school, and Montessori, and in particular the adolescent program, as I mentioned, the tuition is highest. Up there, there's a real big increase between junior high school and senior high school. Senior high school meaning grade 11 and 12. If we are to call A as the highest class level in terms financially, then we are probably at A-, B+, vis-a-vis our families, and of course we study that very, very well. I just argued that recently. I mean, we're relating this again to class suspensions. We have a very quick trigger finger in the Philippines for class suspensions. No, I mean, some of our history and the things that you've seen on TV, the floods. I mean, so when there's a little bit of rain, sometimes they call it off. And I actually was I was in a discussion with the Department of Education, because in reality, most of the people in my school live directly around the school, and very few take public transportation. So we could actually hold school, right? So yes, it is quote unquote privilege. The other thing is that, yeah, related to the overseas trips, I mean, yes, I mean, they were talking about Italy. We showed that we've been to Sydney, but we've also done local trips as well. And there's a scholarship fund that is set up for those that might not have the means, scholars, to do that. And this is the thing that I'm going to tell you about that. The scholarship fund was not my idea. The scholarship fund was the idea of the student council. So again, we just followed them. No, I mean, on my part, we're just starting these things out, and of course, I'm concerned with the learning objectives, making sure that people are learning, etc. And it came from them that, well, what about the people that may not be able to afford the trips that are a little bit further out? So, yeah.
喂，你好，好。我的问题是，就是延续刚刚的前几个问题，关于这个课程的这个部分，就是现在你们学校的这个课程已经经历了几年的时间，那这样子的一个经验，对于你们来说，在未来的5年到10年，你们的教育的课程方面会有怎么样的调整，或者是维持原来的这个课程规划？谢谢。
well, first of all, I don't know if I will be there in 5 to 10 years. I might be done in 3. They might either kick me out but anyway, I'd like to keep teaching there. I think the base of the curriculum has been established, the work culture as well. That was very important to me to establish that. And when you're talking about liberal education, liberal arts, the humanities, I mean, that's a base that is that has lasted millennia. No? So I think that is strong, and I don't think that will change. I think what will change is exactly what I stated earlier. That right now we are just doing what they call one strand, which is a general academic strand. We will concentrate a little bit more to be able to do more humanities and social science. That's the next step. And then accounting, business, and management also, that's the 3rd step. And then I think 3 years down the road, we can really look at the possibility of having a science, technology, engineering, math stream. So I think it will, that will be changes. Those will be the changes that I will recommend to whoever succeeds me. That they stay with that plan. I'm sure I'll still be involved with the school because I have children there. So I think I'll still be involved there, and I'd like to still teach at least a literature class. But I think the X factor, the thing that cannot be predicted, are changes in the program, changes in the thrust of the program that would be initiated by the students themselves. Right? Because sometimes they want things, and if it fits within the parameters, then we should give it to them. So, that's always the X factor there, the initiative of the students.
好的，我们再次掌声，谢谢各位参与的学生。那接下来呢，我们第3场的讲座将在3点20。